In this quick lesson, we'll be taking a look at the environment rollout under the V-Ray tab. This is the current render that we have. There is no light in the scene. We only have an HDRI image in the environment slot. If I open up the environments and effects window. Now let's open up the render settings and go to the environment rollout under the V-Ray tab. And here you can override the 3ds Max's environment for global illumination, reflection, refraction, and secondary matte environments. If I enable GI environment override, for example, you can define a color to be used in the environment for global illumination calculation instead of the defined HDRI map in the environment slot of 3ds Max. And using this multiplier, you can multiply the color value, or you can define another HDRI or any other map instead of a color to be used. We have the same set of settings for reflection, refraction, and secondary matte environment. You can see we have this reflection refraction environment and a separate refraction environment. Right now, if I enable reflection refraction environment, the color or texture defined here will be used for both reflection and refraction rays, which is normally what you want. But if you want to have a separate environment override for reflection and refraction rays, simply enable refraction environment. And now the reflection refraction environment section will only be used for reflection rays, and refraction environment will be used specifically for refraction rays. And we also have the secondary matte environment. This group allows you to control the appearance of matte objects in reflections and refractions. For the GI environment override, let's use a pure red color with the value of 150. For the reflection environment color, let's use a pure green with the value of 150. And for the refraction, use a blue color with the value of 150. Now, if I render the scene with these new adjustments, the result would be render 01 in the frame buffer. What is happening here is that the GI rays do not see the HDRI map defined in the environment slot, but they see a red color as the environment. And if I go to the global illumination path, you can see how the red environment that the GI rays see affects the global illumination calculation. And the reflection rays are seeing a green environment instead of the HDRI map defined in the 3ds Max's environment slot. And if I go to the reflection path, this would be even more obvious. And the same thing for refraction rays. They are seeing a blue environment instead of the HDRI map defined in the 3ds Max's environment slot. And if I go to the refraction path, this would be even more obvious. Now let's try something else. If I open up the material editor, I have 3 HDRIs that I want to use instead of the simple colors. For the GI environment, let's use this first HDRI. For reflection environment, use this second HDRI. And for refraction environment, use this third HDRI. Now, as you can see in the render 02, and if I go through different passes, you can see different rays are using different HDRIs. If you are using the environment slot instead of the very dome light to lit your scene, to save some memory, you can define a less detailed HDRI in the GI environment and use a higher quality HDRI in the reflection and refraction environment. Okay, in this lesson we learned about environment rollout. See you in the next lesson.